My name is Kate, and I am 42 years old. My husband, Jim, is 44, and the son of a wealthy family. Both of us work for the company run by my father-in-law, Tom. We don't have children, but we've been living a relatively happy life together until that day. What, Jim? Is that true? Yes, I'm afraid so. The disease was caught too late. There's nothing more we can do. Jim has about 6 months left, at most. A shockwave hit us like a thunderbolt. Jim, my husband, was given a terminal diagnosis. Lying in his hospital bed after some tests, Jim was stunned to hear about his prognosis. Then he fell into deep despair. Jim. Oh, Kate, I never thought I'd have to face the end of my life so soon. Don't say that. But the doctor said there's nothing left to do but palliative care. For a while, Jim looked dejected, but suddenly, he seemed determined. It's out of my control that I got sick. From now on, I need to get my affairs in order. Kate, listen to my will right now. I'll put it in writing later, but wait, hold on. Your will? Just like that. I've been thinking about this a lot. About who to entrust my inheritance to. We don't have any kids, right? So I'm leaving everything, including the company, to my only blood-related child, my illegitimate child. You're okay with that, right, Kate? What are you talking about? An illegitimate child? Yes, that's right. I have a child. They're probably about 5 years old now. That's why I'll leave everything to them. The stare directly at Jim's face as he said this ridiculous thing. I'd suspected he might say something like this someday, but I never thought he'd confess at a moment like this. I decided it was time to reveal the resolve I had kept hidden. Fine. If you're absolutely determined to leave everything to your illegitimate child, then go ahead. But sign the divorce papers and the custody waiver first. What? Divorce papers and custody waiver? Whose? Jim was stunned by my words. Seeing his face, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Well, it doesn't have to be right now. We can talk about it when you come back home. I'll have the documents ready. So be prepared. Kate. I gave Jim a big, bright smile and walked out of his hospital room. The next day, Jim came back home. He went straight to his bedroom, lying on his bed, fully embracing his role as a patient. Surrounding his bed were me and his parents. Jim, you still look fine. Are you sure you need to stay in bed like this? Or is it that you're already feeling pain? The doctor explained it well. Your disease is spreading throughout your body, slowly but steadily. It's already metastasized everywhere, but even as it progresses, you might not feel much yet. Suddenly, though, your body might stop cooperating. Your bones could become fragile. Bleeding might start more easily, and you'll begin to lose your hair and nails. These symptoms will appear more and more. Even lying in bed will become unbearable. Don't say such scary things out of nowhere. I'm a patient, okay? They said I have 6 months left. Be kinder to me. You wouldn't understand, Kate, being healthy and all, but I'm fighting every day with the fear of illness and death. Why can't you, Kate, be more compassionate towards me? Don't you understand how I feel? That's why. So what? Are you seriously suggesting that's the reason for your affair? Don't make me laugh. Your illness was diagnosed just yesterday. Are you saying you started cheating yesterday and somehow fathered a secret child overnight? That's absurd. I already know, Jim. I've known about your affair for a long time. And about the secret child you mentioned yesterday, too. What? No, you knew. Jim shouted from his hospital bed. Just then, his in-laws, looking utterly exasperated, spoke up. Jim, you've been skipping the mandatory health checkups at the company, haven't you? You claimed I approved it, said it was fine, but I knew nothing about this. The doctor said early detection was key for your condition. If you'd taken those checkups seriously, it could have been caught earlier, and treatment might have already started. And now you expect sympathy, demand kindness, and act like none of this is your fault. Exactly. Jim, you even pretended to have done the checkups in front of Kate, didn't you? The late discovery of your illness and your terminal prognosis is entirely your own doing. Instead of reflecting on that, you act entitled, as if being sick makes you immune to responsibility. It's honestly appalling. And the reason you skipped those checkups, was it something childish? Were you scared of the tests? You used to cry about getting shots well into high school, didn't you? Dad, Mom, why are you being so harsh? Your own son has been told he has 6 months to live. Can't you be a little more compassionate? Isn't that what parents are supposed to do? And crying about shots, that was when I was a kid. This is humiliating. I've always been healthy, so I thought health checkups were a waste of time. Skipping dinner after 7 p.m. or fasting before breakfast just felt unnecessary. I'd rather focus on work or meet with clients for dinner. It seemed better for the company too. So yeah, hearing 6 months to live shocked me too. I need you all to cut me some slack here. It's a company requirement, Jim. It's a legal obligation, and I've always emphasized that. I get my checkups done every year. At my age, taking care of my health is essential. And yet, you used my name as an excuse to dodge it, for some juvenile reason, no less. How am I supposed to explain this to the employees? Tom was frustrated and visibly conflicted. Mary, his mother-in-law, sighed repeatedly, clearly disheartened. Jim, shocked by his parents' lack of support, looked back and forth between them, searching for even a glimmer of empathy. But soon, regaining composure, he began repeating the same arguments he had made to me in the hospital room yesterday. But yes, it's true. My illness and limited time left are unfortunate. But Dad and Mom should be happy that I have a child. Right, they've never been too vocal about it, but they've always hoped to hold a grandchild someday, haven't they? Paul, my younger brother, has been overseas, acting like an artist all the time. He's not going to get married, let alone have children. Dad and Mom were expecting their first grandson from me, their eldest son. And yet, here we are, all these years later, with no children between us. I've been thinking about it for a long time. What if one of us is the reason we can't have kids? I've always been perfectly healthy, so it couldn't possibly be me. Naturally, that means the issue must be with Kate. Isn't that the only logical conclusion? What? Jim, are you seriously suggesting that I'm infertile? Without any actual medical tests? But what other explanation could there be? The proof is right here. I have a child with the woman I truly love. Anne. He carries my blood, and there's no doubt he's mine. That makes him Dad and Mom's grandchild, too. His name is Mike. He's 5 years old this year. Such a cute little boy. Now, I'm not saying gender is everything, but when it comes to heirs, a boy just seems right, doesn't it? I'm so glad it turned out to be a son. I'm relieved that, before I pass, I can show Dad and Mom their grandson's face. I told Kate this yesterday, but I'm leaving my inheritance and the company's ownership to Mike. I'll be calling my attorney shortly to finalize everything, and I need Dad and Mom to witness it. Oh, and Kate, you're not getting a single penny of my inheritance. We may be married, but we're practically strangers. You couldn't even give me a child, so what use are you? Was this man always this despicable? No, I should have realized it when he started cheating. He's irredeemably vile and selfish. So you meant it when you said that yesterday. You're really going through with this? Of course I am. I've been saying it all along. Dad, Mom, Anne and my son are coming over shortly. I thought it was important for everyone to meet. After all, once I'm gone, they'll be part of this family. There's no reason to wait until my death, though, is there? Kate already knows the situation. At least let me spend my remaining days with the people I truly love. Anne and her son can start living here today. Get the housekeeper to prepare a room for them. Kate, you don't have to leave. You'll be staying here to care for me until I pass away. And my beloved can't be expected to handle that responsibility. But as my wife, Kate, it's your duty to take care of me, isn't it? Enough, Jim. Will you just shut your mouth? I slapped Jim's face, speaking on behalf of his utterly stunned parents. Then I threw the divorce papers, with my signature already on them, onto the bed. What the hell, Kate? How could you? I'm sick, damn it. How many times do I have to tell you that? Shut up. If you have enough energy to yell like that, then you're fine. I'm not taking care of you. How can you expect me to accept this situation? Are you out of your mind? You don't even understand what you've done, do you? I'd rather die than agree to this. My conditions haven't changed since yesterday. Divorce from you and giving up custody. I've already prepared the paperwork, so sign it now. Jim, you clearly care more about your mistress and a legitimate child, don't you? In that case, you can sign it right away, can't you? And for the record, I don't need any of your inheritance. What I care about more than that is getting full compensation from you in one lump sum. What? Calm down, Kate. What's with you since yesterday? Divorce and custody. Fine, divorce, whatever. But custody. What are you talking about? We don't even have kids, so whose custody am I supposed to give up? And I'm not paying any compensation. If anything, Kate, you owe me compensation. You hid the fact that you're infertile, didn't you? The reason I had an affair was because of you in the first place. So if anyone's responsible for paying compensation, it's you, not me. Jim spoke arrogantly. At that moment, Mary quietly stepped forward and, without a word, punched Jim in the head with her fist. A satisfying sound echoed. Even a man like him apparently had something inside that head of his. What? What are you doing, Mom? You idiot. How can you run away from responsibility? Jim, you have a duty to pay. Compensation. And if not for Kate's offer, child support as well. Kate said she wouldn't demand child support if you gave up custody. But you still have to take responsibility for what you've done. Because Kate is carrying your child, Jim. What? Jim looked stunned by Mary's words. Then he stared intently at my stomach. It was only confirmed very recently. I've already told Mary and Tom. It's certain I'm pregnant. I'm carrying your child, Jim. Remember, not long ago, you came home completely drunk after a dinner with a client. You reeked of alcohol and, well, you touched me in that state. The next morning, you were hungover and said you didn't even remember coming home. That's probably when it happened. Do you get it? I'm not infertile. I'd like you to take back what you said earlier. What? Wait, hold on. You can't just drop this on me now. You called me infertile over and over without even confirming it. And you used that as your excuse for cheating. Stop saying such ridiculous things. You cheated because you chose to. You couldn't control your desires, could you? Don't drag me into your excuses. You're totally disgusting. Disgusting. Wait. If you're going to accuse me like that, then I have every right to doubt you too. Jim, maybe you're the one who's infertile. That would explain a lot, wouldn't it? After all, if you can baselessly claim I'm infertile, then surely you wouldn't mind if I did the same to you. And if that's the case, Then maybe that illegitimate child isn't even yours. What if you were deceived and ended up raising someone else's kid? What are you saying? Don't you dare insult Anne and the kids. I won't forgive you. Who insulted whom first? Let's not forget about Jim's mistress, Anne, right? From what I hear, she's pretty popular with men. And not just Jim, apparently. I thought you knew she was seeing other men too. Or are you telling me you didn't? It's something a simple search could have told you. What? What are you talking about? No, you're trying to trick me, but it won't work. That's a lie. It's not a lie. While gathering evidence of your affair with Anne, I stumbled upon something unexpected. Pictures of Anne entering a hotel with a man who wasn't you. And not just once or twice. She's even been taking them to her place. Oh, and by the way, the place Anne lives in now. It's one of those luxury apartments you secretly arranged for her. Seems she's been inviting multiple men there and throwing loud parties. Complaints have even been filed with the building management. Didn't you know that, Jim? That's not true. She isn't that kind of woman. Anne is humble and sweet. All right. If you want to keep believing that, go ahead. But the evidence I have of your affair is undeniable. My lawyer has already reviewed it, and there's no doubt I can file a claim for damages. Here's what I want: divorce, full compensation up front, and, as I've said, full custody of this child. After the divorce, I don't want you to ever contact my child again. Even if you only had 6 months to live, I wouldn't want you anywhere near them. I don't care if my child doesn't inherit a penny from you. I'll raise my child myself, and we'll be fine. You've made it clear that your mistress and your illegitimate child are more important to you than this family. So, sign the papers now. Or do you want to drag this to court? Court. If this goes to court, my company will take a huge hit. Then do the right thing, Jim. Accept the terms and let her go. If it takes a court trial to cut ties with you, it's worth it. Mary and I both agree on that. Dad, Mom, whose side are you even on? Why aren't you standing by me? Jim looked like he was about to burst into tears as he shouted. That's when Tom finally lost his temper. What do you mean, why? It's because you were the one who betrayed Kate first. Idiot. Have some shame, Dad. And tell me, Jim, what position are you speaking from? Talking about inheritance and taking over the company. Your personal assets aside, the company isn't something you can decide on your own. You're still a nobody in our company. What is this? Do you think you've already become the CEO or something? I have absolutely no intention of making you the next CEO. That position will be carefully decided by discussing it with the current executives. What on earth makes you think you can act like the company is yours? What are you talking about, Dad? I'm your son. I'm the eldest. Who else but me is supposed to inherit the company? That's just your own delusion. Jim, I've never once told you that you would inherit the company. Is that why you've been acting like you own the place lately? Thinking you'll eventually take over? I've heard all about it, and let me tell you, I've been considering cutting your salary or even transferring you to another department as a disciplinary action. No way. Why are you always saying things like this? Isn't the company like your personal property? If that's the case, it's only natural for your blood-related son to inherit it. I've lived my whole life believing that. I'm going to die soon anyway. If I'm going to die, at least let me have something good in the end. Let me be the CEO. You. Tom's face turned bright red with rage as he raised his hand, ready to strike. But before he could, Mary collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. No, I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Tom. I'm sorry for giving birth to such a child. I'm sorry for raising him as our son. Don't cry, Mary. This isn't your fault. The reason Jim's character is so twisted lies with him, not with you. What? What are you saying? What's going on? Seeing Jim's confused face, I decided it was time to tell him the truth about himself. With Mary breaking down like this, there was no way she could explain. Jim, I'll tell you the truth. You're not Tom's son. You're the child Mary had with another man. What? Years ago, Mary was deeply troubled because she couldn't conceive. So she had a relationship with a gardener who used to come to our home. That's how you were born. Back then, it was hard to accept that infertility could be caused by the man. Mary, as a young woman with so much pressure, felt that having a child was her duty. When Tom learned about Mary's anguish, he accepted it and raised you as his own son, truly as if you were his own flesh and blood. What are you saying? Then, what about Paul? Who is Paul's father? A few years after Jim was born, another child came into the family, this time, without any doubt, a child who shared both mom and dad's blood. That child was your younger brother, Paul. They had no issues conceiving. It was just a matter of timing. Mary said she felt guilty about Jim and spoiled him because of it. She even blamed herself for the terrible mistake of having an affair. But that's not true at all. That's a lie. I don't believe it. Then would you like to see the DNA test results? They clearly show that Jim is not Tom's biological child. I've seen them myself. And maybe Jim should also test his supposed illegitimate child. It might put a lot of things to rest. Jim trembled at my words. It seemed he was finally starting to grasp his situation. If you are so fixated on blood relations, then you need to understand that neither you nor your illegitimate child has any claim to Tom's inheritance. The only rightful heir is Paul. You keep insisting that being the firstborn son should entitle him to everything, but is that really all you can hold on to, Jim? Is blood relation all that matters to you? Is that the only thing that has value? Even without a biological connection, Tom raised you as his own all these years. Well, Jim looked at Tom, desperate for some kind of help, but it was far too late for that. I understand how you feel, Jim, so let me be honest with you too. If you and Kate get divorced, my husband and I plan to adopt her as our own daughter. What? Adopt her? That's right. She is such a wonderful person, even though she lost her parents at a young age. She's diligent, kind, and hard-working. Tom tells me she's highly respected for her work ethic. And Jim, you might not know this, but the three of us, Tom, Kate, and I have gone on several trips together. I love her as if she were my own daughter. What, trips? With my dad and mom? Well, every time we invited you, you either claimed to be busy with work or made up some excuse about being on a business trip. It's easy enough to check whether you were actually out of town. And while we were away, you didn't seem to care that your parents were leaving the house unattended. In fact, we know you brought your mistress here multiple times. Do you have anything else to say? If so, feel free to argue all you want. In the end, you'll have no choice but to accept my terms. Oh, no. Jim's face turned paler and paler, resembling that of a sick man. Well, technically, he was sick. At that moment, loud footsteps and voices echoed closer. Please, ma'am, you need to wait. I need to confirm this with Mr. and Mrs. Henderson first. Don't worry about it. Starting today, I'm living in this house. The door swung open. Standing there was a woman holding a suitcase, with a small boy clutching her hand. Jim let out an odd, strangled sound at the sight of her. Hello, darling. I just couldn't wait to get here. Isn't this house amazing? Living here feels like a dream come true. but I shouldn't celebrate too much, right? After all, you only have 6 months left, don't you? When you told me yesterday that you'd leave everything to Mike, I was shocked, but I'm so grateful. I'm truly lucky to have met someone who thinks so much about their child. Anne, why did you come here? What? You told me to come, Jim. I only brought some clothes and valuables and left the house. But isn't it a waste to leave that place empty? You're still paying the rent, aren't you, darling? That place. Are you planning to keep using it to meet other men? When I spoke, Anne looked startled, as if she had just realized my and my in-law's presence. Oh, I see. Your wife is still around, right? But she'll take care of you, won't she? My delicate arms can't handle that. Besides, I have to take care of the kids. Tom, Mary, nice to meet you. We're going to be family from now on. Mike, say hello to Grandpa and Grandma. Nice to meet you. The affair partner was completely oblivious to the contemptuous gazes from my in-laws. Perhaps this is what it means to be shameless. Having no other choice, I decided to bring this to an end myself. Anne and Mike, I'm planning to demand compensation for the affair from you as well. Be prepared to pay. What compensation? What are you talking about? Compensation is compensation. We have all the evidence of your affair. We can go to court if you'd like. You can get the details from this person. I'll leave you two alone. But before that, would you mind signing this? At my prompting, Jim seemed to have no strength left to resist. He hung his head deeply on the bed and signed both the divorce papers and the other documents. After confirming that, I left the room with my in-laws. Well then, take your time. Enjoy your time as a family, and have a good talk. Just as the door was about to close, I thought I heard the affair partner scream, but I ignored it. Our divorce was finalized successfully. Jim paid the compensation in a lump sum, using his savings. Then, more of Jim's crimes came to light. He had been embezzling money from his company. He had likely been using it for Anne. Expelled from both his home and his workplace, he couldn't even afford palliative care in a hospital. The affair partner, who had also been forced to pay a significant amount in compensation, abandoned him, leaving behind their secret child. Driven by despair, Jim attempted to burn down his workplace with the child in tow, but was arrested before he could. Having lost everything, Jim now faces a lonely death in prison. The secret child was prepared for adoption by my in-laws. As for me, I successfully formalized my legal family ties with my in-laws through adoption. Recently, I've even grown a bit closer to my brother-in-law, Paul, who has returned to his family home. Looking at the relationship alone, it might seem like a forbidden love, which makes me chuckle a little. But even without blood ties, my determination to support each other as a family remains unwavering. Thinking so, I gently stroke my beloved child's head.